Hey, Jack. So they wanted to shut down Ocean Avenue earlier today, to shut it down, run everything northbound into Rumson.
Oh,
So the traffic plan called up DOT, and DOT says, I guess if you have to do it. So they called me, and I'm like, you can't run Highway 36 into a residential neighborhood in Rumson. That's just not gonna happen. So we made them, that's why they're changing, they want to put everything into Rumson, the detour from the Rumson Bridge.
oh, what?
Over the Oceanic, through Madison, and back down. There was
No way.
no way.
That's good.
Yeah.
This isn't bad, then you shut it down.
Yeah, but
And
you can't.
20 seconds.
That's quite the detour going
Yeah.
over the Rumson Bridge.
Oh, yeah. You get lost over there and end up in the
Yeah, that was a bad idea.
It only works in summertime, there's traffic in the bridges.
Okay, yeah.
But John Lennon gets the brave side and see because he tasted the water.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's coming in.
Absolutely.
It's a shortcut.
It's percolating right up to the
We didn't know what it was. Was it groundwater? Was it sewage? Was it anything? John tasted it, so
It was delicious.
that's all
I
for
know.
John.
No, Jeff. The water is cooking, other people's, other people.
I saw his video.
Good evening, everybody. It's a council meeting, we can start with our pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This meeting is now called to order. In line with the Borough of Seabright's longstanding policy of open government and in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, I wish to advise you that adequate notice of this regular scheduled meeting was sent to the Asbury Park Press and other local newspapers on January 10th, 2023. In each instance, the date, time, and location of this meeting were provided in the notice. This meeting is open to the public. Roll call. Councilmembers Bieber. Here. Booker. Here. Catalano. Here. Gorman.
Here.
Keeler.
Good.
Lumley. And Mayor Costa. First up, we have remarks from the audience. If there's anybody in person or online that can be heard, please just state your name and your address, and the floor is yours for 3 minutes. Anybody online that can be heard? No movement? All right. So we can move on to our consent agenda. Would anybody can make a motion to approve the items that are on this consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Good.
No, you got it.
All right, Councilmember Bieber?
Yes.
Booker?
Yes.
Catalano?
Yes.
Gorman?
Yes.
Keeler?
Yeah.
And Lumley?
Yes.
All right, the consent agenda has been approved. We have a number of ordinances to go through, so we'll go ahead and kick off the first one, Ordinance 2, 2023, an ordinance of the Borough of Seabright adopting the purchasing manual. Would anyone like to make a motion to introduce Ordinance 2, 2023?
So moved. Second.
All right, Councilmembers Bieber?
Yes.
Booker?
Yes.
Catalano?
Yes.
Gorman?
Yes.
Keeler?
Yes.
And Lumley?
Yes.
All right, Ordinance 2, 2023 has been introduced. On to Ordinance 3, 2023, an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 201, Vehicles and Traffic of the Code of the Borough of Seabright. Would anybody like to make a motion to introduce Ordinance 3, 2023?
So moved.
Second.
All right, roll call. Councilmembers Bieber?
Yes.
Booker?
Yes.
Catalano?
Yes.
Gorman?
Yes.
Keeler?
Yes.
And
Yes.
all right,
Thank you, Chief. Thank you.
Ordinance 3, 2023 has been introduced. On to Ordinance 4, 2023, an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 9, claims approval of the Code of the Borough of Seabright. Can anybody make a motion to introduce Ordinance 4, 2023?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Councilmembers Bieber?
Yes.
Booker?
Yes.
Catalano?
Yes.
Gorman?
Yes.
Keeler?
Yes.
And Lumley?
Yes.
All right, Ordinance 4, 2023 has been introduced. We're moving on to new business. We have vouchers in the amount of $198,099.69. Would anybody like to make a motion to approve this voucher list?
So moved. Second.
All right, Councilmembers Bieber?
Yes.
Booker?
Yes.
Catalano?
Yes.
Gorman?
Yes.
Keeler?
Yes.
And Lumley?
Yes.
All right, the voucher list has been approved. All right, well, we're
Chris has an announcement or two she would like to before council and mayor's comments.
all right. Chris.
Just a couple things, the budget workshop, we changed the start time to 5, just to give us a little more of a cushion. Sometimes it goes on a little bit longer.
And the date?
March 7th.
Okay.
For the next council meeting. Also, I sent everybody an email the other day with an invite from the DOT to the mid-block crosswalk plan, if anybody wants to join that. And if you could just let me know if you're going to join, just to make sure we don't have too many on the call. I just need to monitor that.
Chris, is there a date and time set for that?
March 7th at 10 a.m.
10 a.m.
But there technically 3 people should be on it. 3 council people.
Yep.
I'm not here.
You know?
Oh, good, we're down too. No. Yeah, we'll see.
Are they coming here, or is this gonna be?
It's a virtual call.
You come in town hall, we'll set it up.
Yeah,
Do we want to firm up who?
I don't know if you want to do that right now.
May as well.
I mean, I approved RSVP, but if you need to drop someone, let me know.
Well, John's not gonna be there, he was involved in it, and so maybe 1, 2, 3, or it's up to you guys. So Erwin wanted to be involved, Jack, you've been involved. Heather?
Okay.
Good.
Okay.
Okay.
Also, I just want to let everybody know that the petitions are due March 27th at 4 p.m. to my office. I have them ready, if anybody wants one. If anybody wants one, they can just tell them to contact me.
Yeah,
I don't have them, I didn't bring them tonight. I can email it to you. And those are all my announcements.
Excellent. That's great, Chris. All right, the council want to speak to their committees. Anyone have an update for us? Sam, you got it, or
talk about the beach. I wasn't here for the workshop meeting, so I didn't get to go over the priorities that other committees got to. So I just threw together some top 4 items that we were going to talk about. The number 1 priority that Don identified as no groundings. That's the main number 1 thing by far, so we'll focus on that, and to overhaul training beach and water safety. We're going to continue to build out the farm system of our junior lifeguard program. We have over 650 email inquiries for junior lifeguards this year. And then the 4th one is to set the revenue goal at 1.2, which would be a record. Beach sales to date, we have 216,000 in beach badge sales already in February. Locker sales are at 102,000, so we're roughly 119,000 in beach sales already. That's not including beach club contracts, Highlands contracts, or any of the junior lifeguard fees, let alone all the days that we're going to sell. We have lifeguard tryouts on April 15th at the Neptune Aquatic Center. We're going to continue to help enforce smoking on the beach. We have additional lifeguards that are going to also patrol, and I know Irvin's going to lead the charge on coming up with a plan of attack. A few items that we got on the wish list is foot washes by Old Borough Hall, where Donovan's, we're going to come off with volleyball. We have a lifeguard tower at Anchorage, which is still a hope. The spring dune grass planting, looking to set a date on that and get Frank moving forward on purchasing the grass for the dune grass planting. And also I want to follow up with trash cans on the beach to get that out there as soon as possible. That's all.
Thanks, Sam.
Sam.
In great shape.
Quick question, the projections as far as revenue, Don gave that to Mike as far as part of the budget.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and we are ahead of last year already, as of right now.
Hey Sam, that 1.2, that sounded like a great number. Thought you said, you know what it was last year?
1 more.
So you got up 100, that's what you're looking for. Excellent.
what did you say you already have in revenue?
319 for close to it.
That's great.
Don, the whole team has done a great job in the last years. Really think he has these lifeguards at reps. It's going to be a tough year for having Mike around this year.
Yeah.
It's going to be strange, but I think, he's just in great shape. It's been an upward trend for many years now, so it's definitely much more. It's like safety first, but it really is like an actual driving department for the whole town, so it's pretty impressive. Should be very good. Thanks, Sam. Anyone else?
Just,
Good, Jeff.
just the fire department, they had the annual check of all the equipment, heavy trucks, and we're waiting to get a summary sheet from the inspectors. Just they went through the three of them, so I'll let you know as soon as that comes in, and the estimated dollar cost on some of these repairs. And at the end, just finalizing when the gal can come down and give us a demo for the power lift stretchers. She has to work it out, but they're holding the price, the same price we had last year, they're holding that. She'll give a demo, which you know when it is.
Great. Thanks, Jeff.
Mayor, I got a couple things. I've reported on this before. Short-term rental ordinance efforts remain on track. Registration continues. We've got 21 of 40 known properties. We've got some holdouts. So we have sent out some second letters to folks to give them notification. Remind everybody there's a 7-day minimum on that. We're clear for municipal tax collection starting March 1st. So that's about to kick in, and people have been notified of that. And we also have a violation schedule for anybody that's not compliant. So we're going to try and reach out one more time to folks who haven't registered. The way the ordinance is written, you cannot advertise without being registered, let alone renting. So if you're advertising and you're not registered, you're up for violation. So we're going to try and do this gently to start, right, because this is year one, but so far so good. The work on the bulkhead improvement initiatives continues. We talked about this at the workshop. The engineering approach that's being developed is very much focused now on downtown. Just remind everybody that between the Haven project, JCP&L, and the bridge build that's going on right now, that covers 1,000 of the 2,500 feet in downtown. So a lot of that is being done at other expense besides the town, which is a very good thing for us. And ultimately, this is leading toward an ordinance, an updated ordinance to reflect the decision the council wants to make on how to handle bulkheads. Sam alluded to before, last week we held a meeting to discuss smoking ordinance enforcement. And actually, it's more than just smoking, but a number of us got together. We had council members, we had the chief there, we had legal there, Joe was there. It was a good discussion. So we started by reviewing prior activities and how we've handled this in the past. And the bottom line is we've taken a bit of a light touch on this because there's a lot of priorities in the town. We have a limited workforce in the police department. We have not given out a lot of tickets for this in the past. For example, one in the last year. So it's something that we haven't pressed hard on. We have to decide if we want to do that or not. What we did at the meeting is we discussed potential enforcement methods. We don't want to take too heavy of a hand, but we want to make sure if we have an ordinance in place that we're adhering to it and we're enforcing it. So one of the suggestions I think was a very good one was look at neighboring towns and see how they handle a similar situation like this. So we're going to do that. And the group is going to assess potential methods of how we would actually do the enforcement. The chief was there, and we talked about potential use of special ones during a period of time. It's a way that we could do enforcement, not just of smoking, but alcohol or dogs on the beach during the off-season and things like that. The recommendation is this group is going to meet again, but next month we'll come back and make some suggestions to the council, and the council can determine how it wants to proceed from there. Last thing is, there was a planning board meeting last week. It was a pretty interesting planning board meeting. There were two final approvals that took place. The first one was an expansion over Alice's. There's a private residence that's going to get built over that, and that got final approval. I think the frontage is actually going to be nice. The architectural design looks pretty good, but that got approved. And the other one, which was obviously a major one, was the Haven project. So that took place last week. It was extremely well attended. Heather was there at the meeting also, standing room only, which was no big surprise because obviously this project has got a lot of attention in the town. So we were happy to see that kind of turnout. I thought the Denholz team did a very good job of presenting the overall design, the approach, the considerations that went into the project. A lot of good questions. A lot of people got up, they expressed concerns, they made comments, they asked questions. Not one person got up and said, I think this is a bad idea. The people that got up basically had things like, which way is the traffic going to go? What are the height of the buildings? How are we going to handle certain elements of this along the way? And worried about the streets with big trucks. But I think at the end of the day, everybody in the room seemed to be reasonably comfortable with the answers they got. And what I found most interesting was there were a number of requests that were made, and the Denholz group accepted them on the spot. For example, all of the buildings had trellises on the roof. A lot of people are concerned about visibility and view and height of the buildings. Agreed immediately to take all of them off. There were a number of other things that were asked about. If the kayak launch has gravel, can we put paving block in it? If that's what the town wants, that's what we're going to do. So it was a reasonably good back and forth. At the end of the day, I think many of the concerns were addressed and resolved. I know there's a lot of discussion about this going on in the town, but I think between the bulkhead, the river walk, the door park that's going to happen, kayak launch, public access to all of this, net, the town would be better off for it. And the planning board did final approval on it last week, so now it's moving forward. So it was a good session, a lot of good discussion, and they got final approval. Thanks, Mayor.
I would just I think, not that people didn't say they were against it, I think they've said it before, so it was just, I don't think people were there, they already had expressed that before, so I wouldn't take that as not being disappointed in the project, speaking as a downtown resident, hearing all my neighbors. I think something that we should be very aware of when any building starts is just how it can affect the homes from a physical sort of standpoint. So there was questions on having seismographs, because that area is very vulnerable.
Right.
It's been vulnerable ever since after Hurricane Sandy. We've had someone do construction and they put pilings in, and literally all of our homes were shaking. So there's a concern for many downtown residents, especially with the just volume of trucks coming down, how it will affect people's homes. So I think as a community, we should be very aware of that as the building starts, because it's vulnerable land. And I think it's people's homes, and they're really going to be affected, because this isn't going to be we're not talking about a one-house build, you're talking about years worth of building, which everyone has been living through still, and still living through downtown since Hurricane Sandy. So I think that's just something that we need to be very sensitive to for the residents who live down there. Because it happens on a daily basis with people just building one-unit homes on a street. So just the sort of travel that comes down those roads, it's going to affect the residents. So that's something that I think I really heard from people coming out of that, was wanting to be really attuned to what's going on and when it's going on.
Yeah, there was particular concern about some of what's under the streets.
Yeah.
There are sewer pipes, water pipes, drainage pipes, and what happens when you have big trucks going down the street. There was discussion about whether or not building materials would be brought in by barge. Mm-hmm. That's a whole other set of challenges that we create. But you're right, Heather. There was a lot of discussion about concern about the construction itself, how it affects their blocks, and in fact, in some cases, asking that some streets are used over others because they're more accommodating to the kind of traffic that's going to happen there.
Has there been any, I haven't followed as closely as some have, has there been any indication from Denholz as far as kind of what they anticipate as far as the timeline on when these things will start? Have they had robust interest from buyers? Is this a 2, 3, 4 year project? I'm just curious as to how is it all going to be over 2 or 3 years? Is it a 5-year thing?
So they answered those questions, not at this meeting. That was not specifically asked, but we had talked about that previously. Their original intent was to try to break ground this spring. And I think that's delayed a little bit just because of events that have taken place, which to me means it'll probably be sometime Q2, Q3 of this year, would be my guess. I think they projected the overall project as a 2-year project. It's broken down into 4 phases, where 4 is the most southern side of the project, which is the individual homes, and then it starts to work north in phases. But before any construction of any of the buildings happens, the first thing they do is the bulkhead, and then start construction from there. Did that answer your question, dude?
Yeah, is that part of your update?
No, well, now I'll just fill in this, because we just kind of reached an agreement just before the meeting. Shore Regional has their spring play, which looks pretty good, Monty Python Spamalot. And there is an invitation, there's a senior night show, which is kind of, it seems like it's a dress rehearsal before the official March 10th. So the dress rehearsal will be on March 9th. I think there's a discounted,
It's a $5 donation.
a donation. And what we're trying to do is reach our senior citizen community. So what we agreed to is we've got kind of an email database of our condo associations. So we're going to send it out to the associations, letting them know it's coming around, what the night is. Shore even said that they would arrange transportation to pick everyone up, which is lovely. So we'll try and get those messages out, and we also have some flyers that we could put up in some of the restaurants and areas, just to let everyone know.
Robert?
I have some progress, but right now they're working on the water main up in the North Beach, so these next will go out. It took them a while to figure out where it was coming from. And there was a sinkhole over here today. But they're gonna come back and evaluate, because they put 10 gallons of blacktop into the hole, and it still had a divot, so they wanna come back and look at it, so, they were very kind and, came and met me there and all, and Jack's been watching them from his porch, because that's where the water is leaking. We also looked at the back of the gym that we were concerned about, because we was getting ready to do a project there. And we think we see where it's leaking from. There's a seam.
So you figured it out?
Yeah. So we opened the wall a little bit more, but we can see that seam is on the outside of the stucco. Probably never had Tyvek back then. So we'll seal it and see how it does, if it dries up. And then we'll talk to the guy that's going to do the work with what he recommends. So we're hoping to keep that thing moving forward. Right? I do have the renditions, I'll share them with you, and I want to get with you on the beautification, some contacts that you have, that maybe you could reach out for me and help me with that.
All right. Maybe we can,
All right.
Well, thank you. Just one update, we voted on tonight, obviously, the school regionalization consideration is still moving forward. Thanks for voting on that simple resolution tonight. They're all set with the mediator. I think I mentioned last time it's going to be a bilateral mediation between Highlands and Highlands, but it'll be on May 30th. So
March.
Don't push back any further. So, on March 30th. So we're making progress. Everyone kind of knows the backstory, but I think that the fact that we still have all parties, all three towns and the three DOEs on the same page on this, that they do want to consider doing it with Seabright at some point in the process. Yeah, so hopefully they'll eventually get all three towns to vote. I think it was a positive thing that the two towns, my guess is they'll have a pretty successful mediation. Hopefully, I don't see how it should be a long drawn out thing, but we'll find out soon enough. But that's actually even a big that I spoke to Carol a few times about this in the past week, and Mayor of Highlands, and so she's excited about that. And progress on that. Let's see, I think that's about it. We don't have an executive session this week.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, as far as our budget process, we got a meeting up from Nebraska today, as Joe was talking on, which basically indicated that we're on track as far as our timeline with respect to getting information from department heads, including our annual debt statement, other activities around the budget process have been completed, or at least they're on track. Our meetings, as far as our capital meeting, other meetings are in place. So he wanted to make sure that everyone knew that we were on track as agreed, and that the draft budget has been developed, and we should be seeing that shortly.
Right. And Mike's here, if you could
Hey, Mike, so if you want to add to that, I know you were there, if you want to add to that, you certainly could.
I'm listening to the extra part, and the extra the rural said everything's on target. We'll talk more at the draft budget discussion, capital discussion, and the review of the financial statement.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike. All right, anything else? I think we don't have an executive session, so it'll be a wrap unless all right, good deal. All right, with that being said, anybody can make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So,
Second.
All right, Councilmember Bieber?
Yes.
Booker?
Yes.
Catalano? Yes. Gordon?
Yes.
Schuler?
yes.
All right, thanks. Whoever's online, thanks for now. Please